Have you ever felt this strange emptiness inside? Like no matter what you achieve or how busy you stay, something vital is missing. That's not a flaw or a failure. It's your soul whispering, reminding you of a story you once knew, a personal myth you've forgotten to live. Today, we'll explore why that myth matters more than you realize, and how returning to it can transform your life from empty to deeply meaningful. The emptiness that follows when you forget who you are. Have you ever felt hollow? Like you're moving through life with no real pulse? You wake up. You do what you're supposed to do. You even smile sometimes. But deep inside, something feels off. Like you've drifted away from something important, but you don't know what it is. That's not just stress. It's not just burnout. It's not because you haven't read the right book or found the perfect routine. It's soul loss. And James Hillman, the great depth psychologist, would tell you this: the soul always remembers its calling, but when we stop listening, it retreats. We live in a culture that teaches us to build a life, but not to listen to it, to chase success, but never ask why we want it in the first place, to blend in instead of following the strange, beautiful path that's ours alone. So we trade myth for maintenance, wonder for obligation, inner truth for outer approval, and little by little, something in us goes quiet. Carl Jung called this disconnection the beginning of the shadow. It's when the parts of you that carry life, desire, curiosity, imagination, get exiled. But they don't disappear. They wait. And sometimes that waiting shows up as emptiness, as numbness, as that quiet ache that no achievement can fill. Here's the paradox. The more you ignore your unique path, the myth you were born with, the more the world will feel flat and meaningless, because the soul doesn't want more comfort. It doesn't want more likes, more praise, more performance. The soul wants meaning. It wants to live its own story, not one borrowed from someone else. And that might be exactly why you're here, listening now. Because part of you remembers, not with your mind, but with your bones, your breath, your dreams. Maybe you've been asking the wrong question, not what should I be doing, but rather, what is the deeper story I've abandoned? Because until you return to that myth, you'll keep building a life that looks right on the outside, but feels wrong on the inside. And the truth is, you're not broken. You're just far from your story. But don't worry, it's still waiting for you. Living a life without your myth. You might not realize it yet, but many of us are living stories that aren't our own. Scripts handed down by family, society, or culture. Scripts that fit expectations, but ignore the soul. James Hillman taught us that every soul carries a unique myth, a deeply personal story written in symbols and images only you can understand. But when you follow someone else's narrative, whether it's a career path, a lifestyle, or a set of values, your own myth begins to fade. This fading is subtle at first. It creeps in as doubt, a quiet question. Is this really who I am? Or worse, am I enough? Carl Jung called this the tension between the persona, the mask you wear for the world, and the self, the deeper essence waiting to emerge. When the persona dominates, the self is pushed into shadow, into silence. You become an actor on a stage not your own, performing roles you didn't choose. The applause may be loud, but inside, the audience is empty. Napoleon Hill reminds us that desire is the starting point of all achievement. But desire born from expectation, not from the soul, leads only to dissatisfaction. It's like chasing a mirage, always moving, never arriving. This disconnection from your myth can look like chronic dissatisfaction with your accomplishments, feeling trapped in routines that drain your energy, comparing yourself constantly to others and feeling less, a persistent sense of something missing even when everything seems fine. But here's the truth. that something missing is your soul's way of signaling it's time to wake up, to stop living a borrowed story, to begin the slow, sometimes difficult but deeply rewarding process of returning to your own myth. Remember, myths are not just fairy tales. They are the language of the soul, full of symbols, lessons, and clues to your true purpose. And your soul remembers. Even when you forget, what is your personal myth? When James Hillman speaks of the myth, he isn't talking about a story you make up. He's talking about a living, breathing narrative that flows from your soul, your deepest calling, your unique purpose. This myth is like a seed planted in you at birth. It contains the themes, symbols, and directions that shape your life's journey. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the path of becoming your true self, not just the version the world expects. It's a dance between shadow and light, between what you show others and what you hold sacred inside. Napoleon Hill would remind us that desire, when aligned with this myth, becomes a powerful force, not just for success, but for meaningful success. It's the burning desire that fuels purposeful action, not empty ambition. Your personal myth may be hidden under years of expectations, distractions, and noise, but it's still there, waiting for you to listen. It may show itself in dreams, in recurring feelings, in the symbols you're drawn to. It may whisper through your passions, or in the things you've always felt pulled toward, but never pursued. Hillman believed that embracing your myth is a way to heal the soul's wounds. Because when you live your myth, you honor the parts of you that society often asks you to hide. You become not just someone who achieves, but someone who lives deeply, fully in tune with who you really are. This myth is not a destination. It's a lifelong journey, a story written one day at a time. Signs you've abandoned your myth. Recognizing that you've stepped away from your personal myth isn't always easy. Often it hides behind everyday feelings and habits that we mistake for normal. James Hillman would say these signs are your soul's way of sending a message, a call to wake up and remember. Here are some of the most common signals. Chronic dissatisfaction. No matter how much you achieve, nothing feels fulfilling. Constant comparison. You look at others' lives and wonder why you don't measure up. Restlessness. A persistent feeling that you're not where you're meant to be. Emotional numbness. Feeling disconnected from your feelings, like you're going through the motions. Fear of authenticity. Avoiding being truly seen because it feels risky or uncomfortable. Repeating patterns. Finding yourself stuck in the same mistakes or unfulfilling cycles. Carl Jung would remind us that these feelings often point to the shadow, parts of ourselves that have been ignored or rejected. When we push these parts away, the soul's voice becomes muffled, and the emptiness grows louder. Napoleon Hill's teaching of desire helps us here too. When your actions aren't fueled by genuine desire, but by obligation, fear, or external pressure, the results will never satisfy your deeper self. But here's the hopeful truth. Recognizing these signs is the first step toward reclaiming your myth. It means your soul is still calling you, still waiting for you to listen. You're not trapped. You're being invited. Reclaiming your myth and living with soul. The good news is, your myth is never truly lost. It's like a song buried beneath layers of noise, waiting for you to hear it again. James Hillman invites us to lean into the language of the soul, symbols, dreams, passions, to find our way back. Because healing begins when you start listening, not fixing. Carl Jung teaches us that individuation is a journey, not a destination. It requires patience, courage, and a willingness to face your own shadows. Napoleon Hill reminds us that desire, real desire, is the compass that points toward your soul's purpose. It's the fire that lights up the path, even in the darkest moments. So how do you begin? Start small. Notice what sparks your curiosity. Pay attention to dreams or recurring images. Allow yourself to feel, not run away from discomfort. Speak your truth, even if it trembles. Remember, you don't need to have it all figured out right now. The journey is sacred because it's yours. Maybe the emptiness you feel isn't a void. It's the space where your myth is waiting to be born again. And in that rebirth, you find meaning, you find peace, you find home. So take a breath, listen closely. Your soul is calling.